There is a great debate. Are we giving manufacturing jobs away? Or are they taking manufacturing jobs away? Controversial point, but the end result is the job is gone. Gone for you, gone for your children, gone for their children, vanished. Gone for your neighbor. How critical was that factory to our self-reliance? Without manufacturing, we're defenseless. Before we exit, shouldn't we determine the value? Perhaps then we can understand our responsibilities.
So why are you compelled to do this documentary?
When our government takes your tax dollars and invests in that business, there should be a higher standard requirement. Suddenly, in my opinion, when I've invested in that factory, I should have an understanding of why it's going away and what it's taking with it.
Why is a factory unique? Businesses shut down every day, but why a factory in particular?
I think that all of the components relative to securing our society and maintaining a higher standard of living is relative to manufacturing. It's interesting that wherever there's a higher standard of living, manufacturing demonstrates a strong presence. Factories have been under attack. All other institutions, the police department, the fire department, education system, the government offices, they're all still here. The only thing that's been unplugged is the factory. I think we're seeing a factory that's been around for 100 years shut down, and there's very little people that care. Our society should be capable of saying, this is not what we want. Let's take this documentary and speak to some educators that may be able to offer some insight. Then perhaps we can review some of the critical processes that are leading to shutdown. Based on your knowledge and area of expertise, why do you think factories are shutting down in Canada?
Well, aside from the obvious reasons, Bruce, from my perspective, I think management compensation has a lot to do with it. Most employers will pay their senior management group short-term bonuses, quarterly, semi-annually, annually. But that takes their eye off the long-term survival of the company. Because if I'm scrambling within a year to achieve my objectives, to achieve my bonus, I don't care about future years. So smart companies will offer both short and long-term. So my short-term bonus is for 1 year, but I've got a 2, 3, 4-year bonus plan out into the future, and that keeps my eye on the future as well as the short term.
And long-term investors don't mind management making the long-term decisions that sometimes can be tough. Being measured by quarter is not a good idea for industry, and we've got to get away from quarterly results. I don't know what we have to do about it, but I'm almost thinking that the employees need to be bought in. There need to be wider shareholding, so it's not just looking at how much our shares gone up this quarter, but how much is it going to go up in 10 years.
Aside from obvious globalization factors, labor rates, tax breaks, environmental regulations, do you think there are any other reasons as to why factories are vanishing in Canada?
The other issue is labor legislation here in Canada is strangling employers. It just gets added to and added to and added to. Nothing ever goes away. Nothing gets deleted. There's just more of it and more of it and more of it. And it's really strangling employers, especially the large ones. And I know from dealing with smaller companies, they're struggling to be legislative compliant, and it's costly for them. they want to be good corporate citizens, but there's always dollars attached.
Why industry is closing down in Canada, in my mind, is not because we're a small country, not because labor is too highly priced. It's probably because labor is not productive enough. Because when management and labor don't work together, then we can't be productive. And when we lose our productivity, then it's a slide downhill.
Why do you think factories are important to Canadian society and economics?
For some products, the world is a potential market. And I'm thinking of a couple of examples. I manufacture pet food. I've got 90% of the Canadian market. For me to put the dollars and the time into going after the other 10% of a small market is not worth it. I should be looking internationally to expand my business. Start in the US. If I can get 1% of the market share in the pet food business in the US, that's the equivalent to 10% here in Canada. And then move from the US. Everybody's got pets worldwide. Because regardless of the product or service that's offered, Canada is a small market. We all know it. So internationally is the way to go, especially these generic products that exist in every country. There's no reason not to. It's not that big an investment.
What you're saying of countries that are moving forward by collaborating or speaking or communicating better than us. So that's do we call that patriotism? Do we call it?
I think just pride of workplace, not false pride, but real pride. And
Does that come from the worker, the education system, or the government?
It comes from all of it. The government has to work together, has to support good education and training. We have to stop looking at education just as a cash cow by having foreign students come in here and pay $15,000 and $20,000 for their fees. We can raise the standard of living in other countries by trading with them, but we can do that for ourselves too. So globalization is a good idea. Adam Smith pointed out that if we don't trade with each other, we'll all be the poorer for it. We used to be an ambassador. We used to have people come to Canada, get their training, go back to their countries and trade with us.
A small reason for some of them is that unions are unrealistic in some cases, or they don't believe what management's telling them about the finances. And it's almost a natural dilemma. The union's job is to improve wages and benefits for their members, and the company's job is to control costs. So if one or the other gets the upper hand, that's going to take the company into
What do you think needs to be done to bring manufacturing back to Canada?
I think some help for employers from the government. Stop the labor legislation increasing. Offer tax incentives, offer new job creation incentives.
And when we end up subbing out jobs that we could do here, like we catch our fish here, why do we get it processed in other countries? Why don't we process it here and process smarter? I mean, it's got to cost a lot of energy to send the fish over there to get processed, and then we buy it back here. Right. It's actually crazy thinking. That's not globalization that I know of, where you're trying to raise everybody's standard of living. We don't do that anymore. Government is short-term thinking. The government, the education system, the manufacturers, the service industry, the training, the trades, they all have to work together. And we have to mentor people. We have to apprentice them. We have to have co-op programs. We do some of all of that, but we don't do enough. Is it fair to everyone? Is it the right thing to do? And is it practical? And unless those three things are done, then the decision isn't a good one.